Hey guys, in this video I'm just going to be going over making a tune to sign using HUB75 panels with 5mm spacing between the pixels. What I've done is I've laser cut some perspex or acrylic sheets. I've got a back plate, I've got a front plate which is clear, and then I've got a panel mount piece. So this is going to hold the panels, and then it'll hold the power supply and the colour light card, and that'll be the bulk of the panel design there. I'll be using these 64 by 32 panels which have 5mm spacing between the pixels. People refer to them generally as P5 panels. So there's not really much to them. So now when you have these panels lined out, you'll see there's arrows on them with directions. One arrow will be pointing horizontal and one arrow will be pointing vertical. And you have, so you want to line them up to have your ups all the same and your horizontals all the same. So we know when we build the panel that that'll be the top, if you get what I mean. Now it is fairly simple. This is designed just to hold these 4 panels. Okay, so let's start putting these screws in these panels. I'm happy with the alignments, so the trick is here is just to put 1 screw in each corner of the panels so I can get them lined up. Okay, now everything's loose. And the idea is you want to push the panels together. Basically what you're looking to do is just to line the panels up so there's no gaps. So that looks pretty good. They're all in there. And now we just put the rest of the screws in. Alright, so that's all the screws in. So I've got nylon nuts and bolts for the standoffs for the colour light card and the power supply. And that looks good enough. It's all nice and lined up. So that's the boards done. Okay, so now it's time for the card and the power supply. So I've just got a 200 watt 40 amp passive power, 5 volt power supply here. There's no fan in it, so it's passively cooled, it's not active cooled, but I may add a fan inside of the box if this gets too hot. But for 4 panels, 40 amps is heaps. And then I'm going to use a colour light card for this one. So the colour light card will go there. And then the power supply will go here. Okay, so that's the power supply and the colour light card attached to the panel. So this will give me 128 by 64, which should be a good little tune to sign. So this is all fairly simple. You just connecting these 16-way cables like that, and then with the arrows, this is the top, this is the bottom. So of course this is going to go into port 1 of the colour light card, which will be there, and then this one will go into port 2, which will be there. Okay, that's pretty much the bulk of it. So it's not really that complicated. Now the mains will go in here. We'll just get a temporary plug for the mains, just so we can power it up. Okay, now there's a couple of ways that you can have this display your Tune 2 pattern. You can use the color light card, of course, which will connect to xLights, and you'll be able to program it, adjust the sequences on what's playing on it. That's the way I'm going to go about this, because I want to basically include it in my sequences. And that way you can, you can put web URLs for voting, whatever you like up on it. So that's a easy customizable way to do it on the fly. The other way is you can use these HD U60 cards. The idea behind this is that you use a program called HD 2018 to make the sequence or the effect that's going to be playing on it, and then you load it with a USB stick and it'll save it to the card, and then that's just static. So all you do is put power to this and it'll always play whatever you program this with. The other way is you can use an ESP32 and HUB75 matrix library for Arduino. You can just Google search ESP HUB75 and you'll find the project for this. I've just programmed this one with just a simple effect to give you an idea of what it looks like when it's running. So yeah, I'll just quickly run through that and show you the two different effects that you get out of these. So we'll start with the HD60 card. And there you go. We'll just go to that camera there. That's basically a static effect. That's just been programmed in the HD 2018 program. There's a few little like animation border that you can add, and then your text. There's a few options in it, but this will just play as soon as you power it up. And if you want to update the sequence on this, you would need to plug the USB in with new files. So that's one way you can go about doing a matrix without having to worry too much about the programming side of things into xLights. That'll just work. So yeah, that one's pretty cool. So I think these are about, I don't know, $10 or something on Amazon's and wherever you get them, or AliExpress. They're fairly cheap, extremely simple, and it does the job. If you just want a static Tune 2 sign, that does the job perfectly. Okay, this is the ESP32 version of a controller. Now, it's slightly different the way that you chain the panels together. You only have one port out on the card, so the way you chain them together would be you start at the first panel, then you go to second, and then third, and then fourth. So you kind of go around like that, where with these you're just going straight across to the color light card. So you can do a full matrix like this, and it's a little bit more technical because you need to know how to program in Arduino. This might not be something for most people because you need to have some programming experience. As far as I know, WLED doesn't support these HUB75 panels yet, so hopefully they come out with a version that'll support these, because that'd be great, because then you could just have a wireless, basically WLED, so you could have this whole setup connected to xLights or FPP as another player. So it'd be great if they do it, but time will tell. But anyway, this is how the ESP one works. It's the same idea. I've got the brightness down on it. Hopefully you can see it. I programmed it to be dim, so it's not extremely bright, but you can see. So the Tune 2 is just scrolling text, and then these are GIFs. So that's a Pac-Man GIF. The other one was a Simpson, and then GIF words, which is hello there. So there is options to use an ESP to control it. But for most people, probably the HD card if you want a static one. If WLEV ever updates to support these, then that might be a very good contender. But for now, we're just using the ColorLight cards and those, the HD cards. So yeah, that's the ESP, and it's the same as the HD 60 card. You basically program the ESP and that just plays the static. If they ever update the, if WLED ever incorporates this library into their software, you'll be able to obviously program it or update it through xLights or the WLED app. So here's hoping. Hopefully that gives you some options if you don't want to use a ColorLight card. A few different things to look into anyway. Okay, it's a little bit messy at the moment, but with a bit of cable management, a couple of cable ties there, probably there, it should look good. Now for the back plate, for the Ethernet port or the RJ45 jack, I'm just using a waterproof connector. So that'll go in there like that, and this will connect to the ColorLight board. And then the idea would just be we just plug in a cat cable into the ColorLight card like that, and then that'll sit on, that'll be like that. So fairly simple, but for now there's more to add, so we'll just put that there. Okay, now for the box that it's going to be sit in, I've just made some aluminium extrusions and cut them up to make a box. This is 690 wide by 370 in millimeters high, and that will fit the laser cut pieces that I've cut out on the laser. I'll add the cut files for these panels and everything in the video description. So if you do want to make this similar setup, you can just use those cut files and cut them out, and then yeah, you just 690 by 370 millimeters, and it should fit inside nicely. I couldn't get full U channel, so I just grabbed two angles, and they were two offset angles, so kind of just stuck them together. The top ones are siliconed all in here in the gap and everything, so it's all nice and waterproof. So everything's waterproof from the top down, and then the bottom one there's no silicone, so if any water does get inside, it can just leak out. And I may drill some holes into here to let some air in, particularly if the power supply does start to warm up and I put a fan in. It just will help with a bit of circulation. In Australia here, we need to worry more about heat than in the Christmas time than water or snow or anything like you guys in America. Let's put it in its box. Okay, so I think I'll start with it this way. So of course the clear perspex screen goes in first. Put that there. And then we'll take this. Okay, so that's the panel in there with the perspex on the front. Yeah, with the perspex on the front, it just gives it a bit of protection from the weather. And yeah, they are outdoor panels, but I decided to do it like this anyway. Then you'll get the idea. The back panel comes in here like this. Obviously I've got to do some cable management first, but the back panel will go in like that. I'll use a cable gland for the 240 out there, but yeah, you get the idea. So okay, that's nice and cable managed. Everything's away from the power supply, so no rubbing. Slide that back in. Okay, the power cord and the cable gland. And there we go. That's pretty much done. Just find a way to mount it. A couple of brackets, maybe a bit of reed bar, whatever. But yeah, that's a pretty simple way to make a tune to sign. I was going to go, I've got a design to cut out a sort of like a matrix pattern with the word tune to and everything like you see that other vendors have. I was going to cut one of those out of Coro, and but they're kind of hard to read from a distance. But yeah, this will give me a resolution of 128 by 64. That's pretty good. I guess the next step is to load up the Ledvision software and actually see if it works. The way I've got it connected to my controller is I have a USB to Ethernet adapter from D-Link, which is DUB1312 model. And that's plugged into the USB 3 port of the Raspberry Pi 4, and then that's connected to the Ethernet cable, which comes out the back to the tune-in sign, and that allows me to control my Falcon F16 V4 board from the onboard port of the Raspberry Pi, and then there's a second Ethernet port for the tune-in sign, which will be run with a cat cable out to where it's going to sit. So it'll just have power and the cat cable controlling that, and yeah, all of that should work well together. Okay, we're going to go through the Ledvision software here to set up the color light card. This is Ledvision 8.5, and you'll need the file from your manufacturer for the panels that you're using, and you'll also have to connect the color light card directly to your computer via the Ethernet port, not through a switch or anything, just connect it straight to your computer. And anyway, we'll basically go in here, and what we need to do is we need to set up the size. So the size of the sign I just made was 128 by 64. Okay, so that's going to set the size. And then we'll come into screen settings. The password's 168. We click on netcard, and then we click use netcard, and then we'll select the adapter it's connected to, which will be that one for me, and then detect receiver card. So there's the color light card now. So that's all good there. And then this is where we load the config file. So we'll click on load, and then we'll just go browse. And then we'll find file, and then that'll set everything up for me. So that's my panels. And then I'll just set my cabinet setting here, which is 128 wide by 64. And then we'll send that to the receiver. And then that should show on the card. And then there you go. That's the xLights card programmed. So that's pretty much all I need to do here. I've saved the config to the device. So we can move on to FPP and setting it up in there. Okay, now to set it up in FPP, we just go to the FPP gateway in the web browser. And then we come into input output and then go channel outputs. And then in here you'll see you've got your DDP net and all of that pixel strings. We want to go to LED panels. And then in here, so we click on enable LED panels. And then we select our xLights card here. And then the interface. Now, because I'm using a USB to Ethernet plug-in adapter on the Raspberry Pi, the first one's the onboard. So 0 is on board, and then 1 is the USB adapter. And then in here we go panel layout. So we put the panel together. It's 2 by 2, so 2 panels wide by 2 panels high. My panels are 64 by 32 pixels, 1/8 scan. You will need to know what type of scan your panels are. So they'll either, normally they will be 1/16 or 1/8. So mine's 1/8. The model start corner will be the top left. And for my panels, the color order is blue, green, red. So you can do tests to work out which way the order is, but the panels I got are blue, green, red. So I select that there. Now the LED panel layout. Here you've got the O is output and P is panel. So when you're looking at it from the front, my first panel and my first output's up the top here. So it's output 1, panel 1, panel 2. That's because they're chained. And then output 2 on the xLights card is panel 1, panel 2 the same. And the this arrow is basically the way that the up arrow is pointing on the panels. So this is normally just facing up, but if you do rotate the panels 90 degrees, you can click this arrow and change the orientation of the panel. But for most people, we're just going to leave it up. So everything should be good there. So we'll send a test pattern and see what happens. And there's your test panel. So it's flashing away, it's quite happy. If you wanted to test your panel color order, you go to display testing, and then the easiest way is just to come down to here and click on fill color. Should say enable test mode here first, and then come and click fill color, and then just drop all of these back. And then the idea here will be is you put that up and the panel will be red. If it's not red and it's blue, and the middle one's green and then the end one's red, then it's blue, green, red. So this is how you work out the panel order. So that one will be green, and then that one will be blue. So what you work out the colors from this. Like I said, if it happens to be, if that's blue, and then that's green, and then that's red, then yeah, it's BGR. If that's red, that's green, that's blue, then it's RGB. So that's the easiest way to work out the color order of your panel. And then once you've done that, you just come back to input output. And then go to LED panels, and then you change it there. So originally it started on RGB, but mine were backwards, so BGR for me. And then that's pretty much everything you need to do in the FPP. And then you just click save, and then you move on to xLights, and then have xLights configuration. Okay, and here we are in xLights. There may be different ways to set this up. I'm no xLights expert, so you can get probably better advice through the groups and the xLights, like the xLights Facebook group and the Zoom room and all of that. but I'm just going to show you how I'm going to go about setting it up. So I'm going to add a controller here because my FPP is running, so I'm just going to click on Discover because I know it's all connected, and then that's just going to pop up saying different IP, but don't worry about that. So now I've got FPP running here. That's all good. Happy with that, so we'll just save that. This other controller here is my actual Falcon board, and yeah, this is just the way I set it up. There's probably a better way to do this, but like I said, I'm no xLights expert. So now I'll go to the Layout tab, and then I'm just going to grab a matrix. And then over here, we'll set the properties for the matrix. So the strings is going to be the height of the panel. So the strings here will be 64 because it's 64 pixels high. And then the nodes per string will be the width of the panel. So that was 128. And then just one strands per string. So that's 64 by 128. Now, as we set it in FPP, top left is the starting location. Got the controller here. So I'm going to set the controller to FPP. And then I'll come down to here, and then I'll select the protocol. Now, there's LED panel matrix and virtual matrix. I don't know which one exactly to select. So I'm just going to go with virtual matrix, and then I'll set the port on starting port on 1 because that's the only thing I'm running there. So that's all pretty much set. So I'll just save that. Now I'm just going to adjust the dimming curve here. There's probably a different way to do this, but I just want the panel to be a little bit dimmer. I'm sure there's a brightness setting somewhere, but I'm just going to set this to -30 just for this test because I don't want it to blind the camera, because this camera freaks out when something bright hits it. So yeah, that's all good how it is. So now what I want to do, just for this, I'm going to go to the matrix there, which was matrix 2, which is what I made, and I want to add this selection to existing groups. And I want to add this just to my whole house and whole house no floods, just so I can do this video and you see the effect, because this sequence here is pretty much it. It's a whole house sequence, the majority of it, so this is just good for testing. But anyway, we'll go to the sequencer tab and I'll just load the sequence that I was talking about. Okay, so that's in here now. So I'm going to right click down here and edit display elements, and there's my matrix there, so we'll just push that over to there, and then close that, and there's my matrix. So I'm just going to get some text. We'll just expand that out. And then we'll go up here to, we'll say, yeah, that's good enough. We'll just make it bold and say 20 so it stands out. And then I'll give it some movement from the left. And look, that's good enough just for a test. Maybe, what have we got? Green and yellow. Just try and make it match a little bit. That'll do. And then, so yeah, so now what I'll do is I'll just render the sequence. Okay, now the sequence is rendered, I'll just save it. And then I'll select it. And then we'll just upload it. Then we can hit play. And there you'll see it's playing on the Tune 2 sign with the whole house effects going in the background from the sequence. There's a string of just normal pixels there connected to the Falcon board to show that the rest of the house sequence is actually still running, and the Tune 2 sign's running alongside of it all. So that's pretty much how you set it all up, or how I've set it up anyway. And just quickly, I'll show the HD 2018 program. I think this HD 2022 or whatever, it's the year generally. But it's HD 2018, this one anyway. This was the U60 board and the effect that I had playing on it. And it's fairly simple. 168 again is the password to do the settings. And then that was the board there that I had. And it's much the same. You set your width and your height, and then your panels that you want to do. So you got your HUB75 panels that were P5, 1/8 scan, and they were 64 by 32 for each panel. So it's fairly similar to setting up the color light card. And then in here you have your effects. So you can do your effects. You've got text and stuff like that. You've got backgrounds, foregrounds, colourful words, borders. It's fairly simple. So if you did want just like a statically sort of repeating Tune 2 sign that's not integrated to your controllers, it's just power on and play, those U60 HD cards or whatnot, they can work for you to achieve this type of result without needing to connect it to xLights and all the rest of it. So that's another option.